with Eva Timson Williams. She is the wife of the late Thompson E. Williams Sr. Mrs. Williams' family is from New York City. The Williams family is from Elmira, New York. Mrs. Williams is presently employed at the YWCA in Elmira, New York. This interview is being conducted on November 5th, 1990, at Mrs. Williams' home, 219 South Gardner Road, Horseheads, New York. The interviewer is Nellie Jennings, representing the Chemung County Historical Society Oral History Project, Elmira, New York. Eva, tell me about when your family, now that would be the Thompsons, first come to this area.
Well, as far as I know, they came, they were here in 1901 or something, like around 1901 or 1902, yeah. And I guess, I don't know if they were born, in Elmira, though. I think because his sister, Myrtle, Murray, she lived in New York City, and all that. But and I don't know when he came here. It's around 1901, 1902, yeah.
How come they happened to come to Elmira?
Well, they were here when we came because my father, original father, Lawrence King, he used to run he was the chef on the D.O.W. Railroad, and the trains ran from Hoboken to Buffalo, and he was a cook, and he stopped in Elmira to the Thompsons, and he stayed there. The railroad men always stayed there. And then they came to New York. My father invited them down to New York City to visit him, and they didn't have any children, so they wanted to bring my sister and I up here, and they promised my mother and father that they would see that we got through school, the education. That's like so when we came up here. So that's how we got in with the Thompsons, Joseph.
Well, that's great. Now, where did they come from now, your people?
Well, my mother is from Jersey. Her mother was a Blackfoot Indian in Jersey. And my father comes from Barbados, in West Indies, yeah.
Did he ever tell you anything about how he got to New York?
He came over on the boat. He worked his way over as a cook on the boat to New York City. That's how he got in here.
So he come at an interesting time when a lot of other immigrants
were. Yeah, coming in. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Now, the Williams family, they were already in Elmira, right?
Yeah. But I think Tommy's mother, Helen Williams, were from around Scranton.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, she was around there.
And so, your father and they were cooks on the railroad, right?
Yeah, my father, yeah.
Now, what did Tommy's family do?
Well, his father was a boxer here in Elmira.
A very famous.
Yeah, famous
Cyclone,
Cyclone Williams, yeah. And they used to. He had a shoe shine thing downtown in Water Street there. The $1 Million Overhead, they used to call it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, down there, the railroad down there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, his father had quite a very interesting life. Can you tell me a little about it, or do you know a little about it?
Well, all I know is that I know he was a boxer, and then he used to have ooh, what they call it, hot tub or hot steam thing down
steam
there.
room.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
used to have that. That was downtown. And then he went into ministry. He was a minister.
that,
Yeah.
right.
When he died, he was a minister. Yeah.
So now, what did your mother do? Did she a homemaker, or did she work outside of the home?
With my mother from New York City.
Your mother from here.
From
I guess
here?
Yeah. And it would be Mrs. Thompson.
Eva Timson. Yeah.
Eva Timson.
Yeah. She was just a house, home.
Quite a
Yeah,
famous homemaker, isn't she?
Yeah.
Would you like to tell me a little about Eva Timson? Tell me a little bit about her.
Well, she was active in a lot of clubs and everything, and then she helped cook with my father when he had a restaurant here in George Gibson. Yeah, that's the picture that's on the video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a cook, and also he where the Ernie Davis is now, which was an academy. Across the street from there, him and Fred Brown had a automobile mechanic place right there, across there. They both there. So my mother, she was just around, she didn't do
Did a
too
lot
much
of
of it.
things in the community.
Yeah.
Isn't there
A club, a mother's
named
club.
after her?
Yeah, mother's club, the name which was organized at the neighborhood house. And that was back in the 30s, in the 30s.
That was quite something for a black woman to do back in the 30s.
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah, the Mother's Club, yeah. So, and they had a large group, and they did different projects and things for the community and everything like that. So they were really.
So now, how many brothers and sisters do you have, Eva?
Well, there's 6 of us all together, 3 girls and 3 boys. And there was myself, Eva. There was Lawrence King Jr. There was Mabel King and Esther King, Cecil, and Teddy King. 3 boys and 3 girls.
And are they all living?
No, my baby brother, Teddy, he died. He's dead. He died about 3 years ago. And my mother and father are both dead.
Now,
And the King side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they all live in Elmira?
No, my sister and Cecil, they live in New York City. And I have a brother that lives in Elmira and a sister that lives in Elmira. 2 of those.
So now, your mother and father, Thompson. Now, did they ever talk about voting?
Yeah, that was one of the things that they were teaching us, about politics and all of that. Of course, at that time, we weren't interested in politics because we was going to school and everything, but we didn't know. But they always voted, and they used to sometimes talk to us about, the voting, like that. But
how did they feel about voting? Did they feel it could make a difference?
yeah, that's what my father used to always say, Thompson. He always tells us, he says, makes a difference in your job and everything, you're working, and in your community also. He says, it depends on the people that you have to vote for. You should know more about them and everything. That's what he used to tell us. So we know just how to vote,
So did they vote a straight ticket in the old school, or did they split their tickets?
Straight ticket.
straight tickets. They didn't
yeah.
vary, did they?
No, they stayed the
Do
same.
you know if they were Democrats or Republicans?
They were Republicans. They stuck with that, yeah.
So they never split their tickets?
No.
Now, where did you attend elementary school, and was it a positive experience?
Well, when we came here, we went to number 8. Was the first school we went to.
Is that the old Laganegro
The
school?
old Laganegro School there on Madison Avenue.
And now that's the...
That's like human relation,
human
like service, yeah. Then we went from there. We went to Beecher School, and then we graduated from Beecher School, and then we went to the Academy, EFA, which was on where the Ernie Davis School is now.
Okay. So now, a lot of people that you went to school with, are you still in contact with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you name a couple of them?
Well, there's Anna Benson Lewis who was there, and there's let's see, there was Chucky Robinson. Of course, there was Freddie Robinson too, and Joe Brown, and but the ones that now that Lucy Blanford, I always call her Lucy Blanford. There wasn't too many of blacks that graduated from the academy, girls in our year in '44.
Was it because of the war? Do you think part of
They
that?
took they took a lot of them from it. They took there was Freddie Robinson and Shepard, Jack Shepard, Stymie Jones, and all of them. They were taken out from school, but they didn't finish the school. Well, they finished, but they went into service. They went to service.
Well, now, what did you do at school? What kind of activities were you in?
Well, in the academy, we had the Orpheus Club. That was a black club. Mamie Lee Floyd and all was in that.
I know that.
Yeah, we had that. And I was in a lot of...
What was the club for? What was the name of it again?
Orpheus Club. And we learning sing songs and things, old songs, things like that. And then we, I don't know, we just had an organization of that, of the blacks, with that.
Did your husband, was he in school when you were?
He was ahead of me.
He was ahead of
Yeah, he was ahead of me.
So now your after-school activities, were you...
Well, after school, which the neighborhood house was the main thing, but after school.
It was the old neighborhood house on
Yeah,
the corner
on
of
5th and Dickinson Street. And that was in the 30s and 40s.
Do you remember who the director was then?
Mr. Hulbert, Hulbert, C. Hulbert.
What did you do there?
Well, they had classes of after school, a sewing class, they had cooking class, they had a reading class, they had even carpenter, work, cut out wood, stuff where he had that. And then we had gym, we had played volleyball, basketball, the girls, and Ali Quatrano, he was head of the gym director. Then there was, we just had, and then we had, for the holidays like Halloween and all, they had programs and things for the children there. And then on Saturdays, we used to have a peanut hunt. Then we used to have circus in the big gym, and we took part in that. So we did a lot, really. It wasn't.
old neighborhood house on 5th and Dickinson to the new one? Because I know you had a lot of activities in the new one. What did you find the difference was? I guess in the people. The times had changed.
But the difference in the new and the old, the new, you didn't have any classes, cooking classes and sewing classes and things like that. There wasn't any room for them. And it was just mostly the new ones. It's just mostly for basketball, and you just had they had the kitchen, and then they had the library part of it. But the new one, the summer cohesion, they had classes there. The little kids for a certain age, from was the 3 to 4. One group, and then they had the teenagers and everything that they met too there. But there wasn't enough space in the new neighborhood house as was of the old.
Were parents more involved in the old neighborhood house? Like everyone almost come to the old neighborhood house.
Right. And they were more involved than they are now.
Than in the new one.
Yeah, the new one, yeah.
In the 70s,
yeah.
Late 60s and 70s.
And people, the old one, everybody took interest in the neighborhood house, you know. They had scouts, and they would go to the banquets and things that the scouts would have, you know. And we even had a court in the neighborhood house. That was for the children that didn't mind or anything. They had to come up before us for the court, you know. We decided whether they should come in and when they should come back, you know, the neighborhood house.
They should have that again.
I know, they really need it. And of course, if you couldn't go to the neighborhood house, man, that was awful. That's an awful thing when your parents tell you can't go.
Well, now, I know that when you went to the neighborhood house when you were a teenager, what was the, where did you live as a teenager?
On Dickinson Street.
Oh, you lived right there in Dickinson?
750.
But when you went over to get Anna Benson, how did you get her attention?
Well, she lived on 5th Street.
Uh-huh.
So we would always stop by on the way to school and pick her up, you know. And
how did you get her attention?
For to go to the well, we really didn't.
You know that sound.
What do you call? Oh, ew, or something. Yeah, we had all different. Ew. We used to holler when we go by to pick her up.
So that you know you.
We had a certain way of. They had a certain way of knowing we were by. You know, we come by, and sometimes we just go by to the store or something. We holler, you.
And hopefully, some person could get out of doing some work at home.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good day.
Did your when your children were growing up, did they still have that?
Ew. No, they had something. There's something else that they. Oh, I don't know. What was that Jan and I used to say? No, they had their own little way of knowing.
But for years and years, that call.
Yeah, was always
You see, I know all the skeletons. Eva, when you were in high school or in school, what positive experiences did you have?
Well, when I was in high school, we had changed classes for different things. And one of them was our English class. We used to always have to stand up and make a report on something that was important, that we thought was important. But our teacher, he wouldn't accept anything that was pertaining to blacks. We had it in the paper, like you had the Pittsburgh Courier and all those, and we had books that we would give report about it, the Jack Shepherd and Joe Brown and all of us. But they wouldn't give us credit for that. We had to read what they wanted us to read and report on that. And we got kind of mad about it, but so that was just racial to us in that part.
It was part of the times
Mm-hmm.
then.
Mm-hmm.
Did this, you mentioned Joe Brown. I know Joe Brown went to college, and I know that you've gone on to college. Did some of these things that made you, or challenged you, did this help you to make some decisions to go on to college?
Yes, it did. How I got to go on to college was through the daycare center, the Head Start it was called then. And I was teaching over there. I had a class over the Head Start, and they had scholarships. And Mrs. Dreyfus was in charge there, and she wanted to know who would like to continue their education and go to Elmira College.
That was Mrs. Naomi Dreyfus,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, Naomi Dreyfus. And that was in the 60s.
That was in the 60s, a long time
Mm-hmm.
from the time, say, that from high school, you had brought up a family, and
Yeah.
but it never left you that things could be changed, perhaps through education a little bit.
Yeah, right. So that's how I got started in going to Elmira College. In a way, they wanted you to go, but still, they kind of didn't think that you could do both the jobs, go to college and also be a teacher and do your paperwork and stuff like that. And of course, a couple of times there, they tried to get me to stop for a year and then pick up on that. And I said no, I wanted to go right on through. I didn't want to wait, in between, because you never know what happens, with it. That's how I just went on and got my education there.
So it wasn't not only being black, it was also being a woman. So you had twice the challenge.
Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah.
They didn't feel that you could really do that.
Do that? No. Mm-mm.
Well, you did it.
I know.
Do you want to tell me more about your college experiences?
Well, of course, you have to work hard. Like you said, twice as hard in order to do that. I worked there at the daycare and then went to college at night. And sometimes I'd sit up here and doing my homework and everything. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, studying and all like that. And I have to give my husband credit and my children credit because we had 2 that was in college as I was going to college. And we compare our work and our grades and everything. And the children were surprised that I got high grades sometime before, they got theirs either. And so it was really interesting in going through that because, they helped me a lot. And by them doing their work and doing mine and all like that. But it was hard because sometimes you say to yourself, well, is it worth it, But it was worth it.
So you had children in high school too, then?
Yeah, I had high school and then in college.
And your husband worked.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it was really a.
You were a superman.
Yeah. Well, you have to, in order to get any place, you gotta give up some things. You have to go ahead and work,
So now you got your degree in what?
In human service and science.
Mm-hmm. And everyone, it's quite an accomplishment. You weren't you hadn't just come out of school. You've been out of school.
Been out of
haven't
school
you?
long, yeah. Because when I first enrolled over at Elmira College, I was kind of nervous, because I'd been out of school a long time, and going in with the younger people, and that was a challenge there. But I was nervous, but I got over that. And I said, well, because there was a lady there that she was in her late 70s, and she got up in front of the
That was
class.
Doctor Who. Do you remember her name? Oh.
No. She got up in class, in our first night of class, and she says, I know all of you are younger than I am. I said, but she says, I'm here to get my education, and I'm going to get it. And they all clapped, So we got to be good friends, after everybody was, because they were proud that she, in their late 70s to be going to college to get an education.
I guess so.
Yeah.
What did you find that schooling or education had progressed where when you went to college, you certainly could write about blacks and get credit for it at that
Yeah,
time.
right, yeah. There was more, they accepted it more than that education.
Okay. Eva, just want to back up a little now from your college to, when did you get married?
Well, I got married in June the 20th, because I said I wouldn't get married until I was 25. And my birthday was the 19th, and I got married the 20th of June.
And you were 25?
I was 25. Mm-hmm. And that was in 1948. I got married to Thompson Eva Williams of Elmira, New York. And we were married 2 years before I had any children. And Holly was our firstborn, which she is married now to Clinton Strickland. And they lived in Rochester, and Holly was a teacher, English teacher, and Clinton was a vice principal of the high school in Rochester. And then they moved to Arizona, and he's the principal of the high school in Arizona. And of course, Holly isn't teaching now. She's raising a family. They have 5 children. Thompson Williams, the second, he's in Air Force. He went in the Air Force when he got out of school. And he's married, and he has 3 daughters. And they were here in Rome last year, but now they're, and then he went over to Korea. He's been over to Holland. He's been to Germany. He's been to England, and 2 of his children were born over in England, and 1 in Holland. And
what's his rank?
he's a sergeant, and he's in charge of, in the Air Force, in charge of transportation and housing. That's his department that he does. So, and then Janet, she was married. Her name was Pugh at that time. And she went with her husband in the service. They went to England, and they went to Hawaii. And then he came back here, and she's been with me and her daughter, Asha. They've been here, they've been back and forth, staying with me about that. And then Margie Williams, she married Rolly Coleman, and they have 4 children, 2 boys and twin girls. Her husband is an architect. They're in Buffalo, New York. And Margie works for the Midland Marine Bank She's in the credit department. Jacqueline, she's out in California now. She works for some oil company out there. She's not married. Yeah. Joseph Williams, he's here in, he lives in Elmira, and he's a state trooper. And he has 2 boys. Let's see, who else? Let's see. And LaValia Williams, she went to CCBI, and she works for IBM in Binghamton. That's her class.
So you have 7 children.
7 children.
Does it seem funny to be a little alone now?
Well, I'm not really alone because they keep coming back. They keep coming back, yeah. But then I'm really alone. Yeah, so then I have 15 grandchildren. 15 grandchildren. So they keep you busy.
I guess so. The armed forces during World War II. What was his rank? And
he was sergeant, and he was in the Air Force. He was a tail gunner. When he came out in 41, I guess, wasn't it? 42 or 42, I think it was. He came out the service. Then I went with him for about a year, and then we got married in 48. And then we start raising a family 2 years after that.
So now, what did he do at that time? What was he doing? What job did he hold?
Well, he worked for Eclipse, and then I guess they started laying off for that, and so then he applied for the Stillmore Library to be a driver for the bookmobile, and that was in 1950 when he started the bookmobile at the Stillmore Library. And before that, he was driving the van. They had a van, and they went all over the branches of the Chemung County, like Benetton and come up there to Horseheads and West Elmira and Corning and all the different places.
So he held that job for several years.
Yes.
From 1950 till when?
Till 1980, when he passed away in that year. And he was supposed to retire the next week.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he was there for 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now you saw he really saw the beginning and almost the ending of the bookmobile, didn't he? Because we don't have the bookmobile anymore.
Yes, we do.
We do?
Yeah.
They still have it? Oh, I didn't know. I thought they phased it out for some reason.
No, we still have it. They still got one. Bill Knapp drives it now. Yeah, it's a green, but you probably haven't ever seen it. And it's got books all over it. It's the Chemung County bookmobile. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we still have it.
And so he goes to all the
Branches too, yeah.
and all the
Mm-hmm.
places in Chemung County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What organizations did Tommy belong to?
Well, he belonged to the Prince Hall Masons. And
What degree Mason was he?
he was a 32nd degree Mason.
What's that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. That's quite
But
high.
the high, yeah, the highest is 33, which Adon Allen is a 33 degree Mason. And Tommy was 32nd. So, and then he belonged to things at the neighborhood house, basketball team, Celtics, and all of that. And he also belonged to there's a branch of the Masons that, it's not the Elks. The Blue Room or Blue something like that. He belonged to that.
Well, did he, the Masons, they built, what is it, the Acme Club?
Yeah. The Acme Club is a branch of the Masons. If you belong to the Acme Club, you belong to either the Masons or the Stars. That's how that works. And that's up on Benjamin Street, where there used to be houses and things all along there, but they were torn down and they built the Masons up there.
Oh, they were torn down during the urban renewal?
Mm-hmm.
Did you and your husband vote, or what? What did you think about voting?
Well, he was the one that got me to really get into voting, because he believed in voting, and a lot of times I would try to get out of it, going. He says, no. So we would go early in the morning before he went to work, go and vote. And I always said that, well, if I didn't know the person or anything about and to vote for him, I said I just wouldn't vote for him. And then when the ones I did vote for, they said they were going to do such and such a thing, they didn't do it. So I didn't really was interested until he got on me about voting. He said, you got to get out there and vote. So that's what I did.
And did they encourage you to be more enthusiastic about the
candidate? Yeah. It made me study more about them and and what they would do, and if they didn't do it, then I know the next time who to vote for.
Just backing up a little bit, what was your first job? Do you remember?
My first job was doing housework, really. I didn't want that wasn't my field, really, go to somebody's house and do their work for them. But a certain person was going on vacation, and they thought that if I wanted to earn some money, that I could take their place in working. So I went, and I worked for this family, which is well known around here, the Gridleys. And I worked for them for about 3 weeks. And I had to do the cooking and cleaning up there, in which I told them that wasn't my field. I wasn't really interested in doing that work. So I got myself out of that. Then somebody wanted to know if I wanted to work at Gordon Coy, running the elevators during the holidays, since I was still in school then. Then I took that job down there. Then I worked myself up from the receiving room up to the 3rd floor in the children's department, and then I worked until I had an office on the 3rd floor.
And who did you work for
I
then?
worked for Mr. Ray.
Mr. Ray was the manager for
the manager then, and then Jacobs was, and after Mr. Ray, then Jacobs went on. So
what other jobs were available to you in those times? Do you remember that if you hadn't taken the elevator job, were there other jobs available to you, or were there not many jobs?
No, there wasn't
for blacks or women.
No, there wasn't that many. Mostly it was housework that the blacks did mostly at that time, and then in factories, because I worked at the A&P after I was married for about a year. I worked up there, which I wasn't used to working in a factory, and I had to quit the doctor's orders. I had to quit because it was too much. Because, see, I was working there and then going to school and doing housework at home and everything, raising a family. So he said it was too much for me, so I had to leave. Yeah.
Well, now that your children are all grown, and do you still work?
Yes, I have to be active. I can't just sit. And so now I work at the YWCA, cooking for the daycare children with that. Then I go to different classes at Cope House, in which I do crafts at Cope House. Then I belong to the Nanny Burroughs of the YWCA.
What's the Nanny Burroughs Club?
Nanny Burroughs Club is a club that in the early, I don't know what year, in the 40s, I guess, that they had bake sales and rummage sales, and they put on different projects. Like they brought the Wings Over Jordan here, and
Wings Over Jordan was a gospel singing
gospel
group.
singing, yeah, which they couldn't go in the front door of the Mark Twain Hotel. They had to use the elevator.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my grandparents, every Sunday we listened to the
Wings Over Jordan. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So now, what other organizations do you belong to? Well, first of all, let me say the Nanny Burroughs Club is one of the oldest clubs in Elmira, is it not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is.
Was it just for blacks?
At that time, it was.
Is it now?
No, it's open to both. Now it is open to both. We only have what 2 whites in it now, but we're trying to get more into the club because we need more younger group now, so they can take over, after. Because mostly that's in there now are older people. I mean, they've been, in the club for a long time. So
now, you belong to the Eastern Star, is it?
I did, but I don't know. And then I belong to the Eva Timson Club. Is still going on. We meet at the Baptist Church, Monumental Baptist Church. They're on Clinton Street. And that's one of the oldest clubs. It was a neighborhood house.
Were you directly involved in the civil rights movement?
No, I wasn't. Me.
Well, what events of those times of the 60s and 70s do you remember, or that clearly impressed you?
The 60s.
Well, let me ask you this question first. Where were you when President Kennedy was assassinated?
Well, I was Elmira on East 3rd Street when I heard of that. That's where we lived, East 3rd Street.
Do you think he helped with the civil rights movement at all?
Yeah, I do. He tried. He tried, to help him because I guess they didn't like that idea, I guess.
Do you remember where you were when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated?
Okay, I was still on 3rd Street when we got word about him.
What did you think of those times? You had children that were in school, and the riots were going on in the bigger cities, and there was almost a possible riot in Elmira. What were your feelings as a mother? Were you scared? Were you angry? Or how did you feel during those times? Did you feel good?
No, I didn't feel good. It's like you said, I was scared because on account of the children, you didn't know what would happen, and what they would be into, or just what, I don't know, it was scary though. It just kept you worried all the time and thinking about, just what would you do and how would you handle it.
Do you think the events of the 60s and 70s changed anything in Elmira?
Well, it changed a little bit, but I still say we got a long ways to go. I don't know, a lot of people think that it has changed, but it hasn't. I don't think it's changed that much, really. And just like I said before, it probably will change when the grandchildren come up. They probably will, because they're the type that will go forward, will do. They challenge anything.
Um, the children that are coming out of school now or in schools now, we still have a very high dropout rate, particularly with blacks. What advice would you give the children of these parents? What would you say to them?
Well, the first thing, I think the parents, they have a lot to do with it, what the children are doing. And I don't think the parents take as much interest in their kids now like they used to.
Do you think that's because women work
Is they're not home.
and the
Yeah,
husbands everybody has to have a car now,
yeah,
everybody's traveling?
yeah. They have to do yeah. It's it, and the parents have to work together. I mean, you can't have one parent. I don't know. It's hard for one parent to raise children now. And then the children, they, I don't think they don't take interest enough with the parents.
So
And just like when we was coming along, I mean, now at supper time, we knew when supper was going to be, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and we had to be home, and everybody sit down and ate supper. And now they don't do that now. Maybe some parents do, but many parents, all they want now is pizza, and it's a hurry.
in other words, parents should, take time, and if everybody works, everybody could come home and make dinner. True, everybody would help.
Yeah, help out and everything, do the work.
Do you think the schools could do more in helping the children make good decisions about?
Yeah, I think they should take more interest in the children, not just to be there just to teach, and then after the teaching, everything's over with. I mean, we used to could stay after school, and our teachers would help us with some of the things. And I think that the guidance teacher should take more interest in the children, and because when we were coming along, our guidance teachers told us that we would never go to college, so we didn't take no college courses, to prepare ourselves for college. And they just knew we wasn't going to, especially the blacks. It was the blacks. The whites went. They had got scholarships and everything, but see, we didn't know anything about that.
So when your own children were in high school,
they got scholarships.
You saw to it?
Yeah.
Did you have to see to it?
Yeah, we had to go. We had my husband went because he always said to read and read, and he looked into all those things that they could get scholarships and then to go to school, to college, and that's what they did.
Not only that, you have to work at it. I mean, it doesn't fall down out of the sky.
No, you gotta work at it. You just can't just sit and expect them to, come to you, because they're not gonna let you know anything,
Well, I asked you for significant changes, 60s and 70s. Now, do you see any significant changes now versus the 40s and 50s, particularly maybe for women?
Women, they're more away from home life, I think. I mean, everybody's out to get that dollar, that money, because what you gotta have money though in order to live, really. But they, I don't know, they expect to do as much as a man, and I don't know, they, I don't know, they just, women, I don't know, they're trying, I think they're trying to do too much, and they're not getting a family life. They're on the go all the time, and they, family, I don't know, just like on Sundays, when we were coming along, Sunday, we had a Sunday meal, and everybody was around the table, and we were more at home, it was more of a home life.
Do you think that's because women feel that they should have equal rights to man as far as a job is concerned, that if she wants to have a man's job, she wants to get the same amount of pay,
yeah.
the same amount of
respect, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And she has to work twice as hard to do that, and so something else
has to go. Yeah.
That's true, but look at yourself and your husband and your children, and you were able to accomplish all those things, and you're saying the secret is because you work together.
Yeah. I think you got to do that. I mean, you can't say what your husband's going to do this, and then and you're going to try and do that too, but you got to be together. You just can't, I don't know.
You need help is what, to help
the
each other.
family needs to be pulled together and work together.
Therefore, everybody learns to work and what responsibility is.
Yeah. And I think you have more respect for each other, too.
Well, you probably do. Would you mind telling me your feelings on abortion? That's a big issue. It's going to be a big issue in the 90s, and what you feel and think, or what you don't feel and think.
Oh, that's a big, good. Just like I hear some people say, well, that's their body. And they have somebody dictate to you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But I don't know, it's a big, both ways it's kind of, because I mean, if somebody knows that their baby's going to be born, like a retarded or something like that, some women think they should have abortion, because they don't want to bother taking care of it.
So before they had all these ultrasounds and advances in medical technology, you didn't know what you were going to have. Maybe you were better off?
Really, I think so.
Because
you didn't have that worry of knowing how your baby's going to be or anything until after it was here.
So then you had time to think and bond with that child,
mm-hmm.
whatever
it was, yeah.
whatever that child may be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you've traveled extensively. What countries have you been to?
Well, I've been to Germany, been to Holland, been to New Mexico, been to Arizona, which I'm going next week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All those different, I've been 2 or 3 times, well, I've been twice over to Holland, and I've been to Arizona twice. In New Mexico, I've been once, and then in Germany, I was once. No, I didn't get there.
Did you see any racial problems in any of these countries?
I don't know. I think Germany was. We had a little problem over there, I think. Because they didn't like the Air Force over there anyhow, the military over there. But in Holland and the rest of the countries, people didn't even notice you. You know, I mean, they didn't stop and look at you like, you know, if you're a stranger or, you know, what you're doing over here and anything like that. There was mixed races, you know, together. So it wasn't.
So that you had good tours.
Mhm.
Is there anything that I haven't covered that you'd like to say? Would you like to say anything about the importance of this oral history project? You've been on the committee since its inception, and
I think it's great, really, and because it makes you think way back and trying to trace your history, life history. And there's some things that happened that, you know, when you was coming along, you didn't pay too much attention to them. But now that you with something like this, you go back, you kind of can recall what you know, what you when you was being raised up through just like when we came here to Elmira, we were scared to death. My sister and I, the grass, they would put us out in front of the yard and everything, and birds and butterflies and things would come around, and we were scared to death. We'd start screaming and crying and everything because we weren't used to all that. And cows and animals, you know, different animals and everything, we were scared to death of them.
because you lived in the
We
city.
lived in the city, and only place that we could play, because my father had he was superintendent of buildings down in New York there, and we lived in the basement, and only thing was cats and dogs and garbage cans and everything like that. But as far as cows and things like that, we never did see them.
So it was a different experience.
Hmm.
Well, I appreciate very much your time, and you've had an equally exciting life and something to tell those 15 grandchildren you have. Thank you very much again.
You're welcome.